Hi there, thanks for joining me today as we take a quick look at risk management, what it is, and an example of it in action. I'm Caleb, and welcome to Jexo, the Atlassian marketplace partner that helps project and product managers prioritize, plan, and track work with our Jira plugins. First things first, what is risk management? A risk is something that could happen, and if not managed or treated, an impact occurs. Risk management in projects is the identification, analysis, and treatment of potential impacts on the project based on an assessment of likelihood and consequence. Risk management, together with corporate governance, has become one of the biggest focuses for companies globally. It's mostly a result of broader operating environments like market conditions, regulations, consumer demands, competition, and unfortunately, natural disasters and pandemics. This in turn has increased the focus on risk management in projects, and it's one of the key processes every project manager should know. In order to have a clear view of project risk, the project itself needs to be well defined via the project charter or in the project brief, scope documents, or release plans. Without that clear baseline, the level of risk cannot be established. A common pitfall for many projects is when risks cannot be quantified and they all get treated the same. Because risks are ever present and the project accepted a certain amount of risk as part of the investment approval in the first place, the project team could drown in immaterial risks and what-ifs without knowing which one of these risks really matter. The best way to assess risks is to have a risk matrix that uses two dimensions of likelihood and consequence. A typical matrix uses a 5x5 grid to assess risk. Risks in projects also need to have two states. The first state is the rating, where no action should be taken. This is called inherent risk rating and can be used to determine what treatment strategies should be employed, including do nothing. The second state is the residual risk rating, which is based on the actions being taken and has an effect of reducing the risk to be a level that can be accepted. Finally, risk management must be linked to authority levels and delegations. This should be done via a delegation of authority policy and an enterprise risk framework. This ensures that risk acceptance can only be done by someone recognized as having the authority to do so. But enough theory, let's have a look at some examples of how to manage risks in your projects. Imagine the following scenario. In a software development project, a vendor informs the project manager that they are facing some delays in delivering the required components within the agreed timeline. In the worst case, the vendor states that if they are not able to deliver the component due to other commitments for the vendor resources, they cannot deliver for another 4 weeks. The vendor tells the project manager that they will monitor it and hopefully everything will be fine, but wanted to flag it just in case. In this scenario, there are a few options for the project manager. There is the do-nothing approach. The project manager is optimistic that everything will be fine and waiting for updates from the vendor. The second approach is to do basic risk management. The project manager will log the risk that there could be a delay, but they don't undertake any analysis or develop additional treatment plans. And the last approach is the recommended risk management. The project manager logs the risk and determines the risk rating to establish the next steps. So how would a project manager go about assessing risks? The project manager and stakeholders discuss the risk and review the likelihood and consequence. The likelihood in this case is likely because the vendor has a history of failed deliveries and the team has assessed the status of the component as behind schedule. And the consequence is major because a 4-week delay would mean that the project misses the planned release and it will impact future work. The inherent risk rating is then extreme. In most organizations, extreme risks are unacceptable. So there is now a clear need to develop a mitigation plan and reduce the risk. In our example, the project team, working with the vendor, determines that they can reorganize some work and prioritize additional capacity to bring the deliverable back in line with the schedule. The project team also works on the release plan and gets approval for a contingency plan, where the release can still go ahead with the component to be delivered in a subsequent drop. Then the project manager updates the risk assessment. The likelihood is now unlikely because the team has brought the plan back in line with the dependent dates. The consequence is moderate because even if there is a small delay, the project can avoid missing the release. Although some work will carry over, it won't materially impact the investment or outcomes. And the inherent risk rating is therefore moderate, which is acceptable. This is an example of a mitigate strategy, where the project team actively sought to intervene and reduce the risk. Other strategies include accept, avoid, transfer, or trade-off, and finally, as previously mentioned, there is the do-nothing approach. The example we talked about today focused on a risk that was identified during delivery, but many project managers ignore the risks that could be a result of the change being implemented. While the project team may not be responsible for the change once it is in the production, If there are adoption issues or incidents that impact experience, it will erode the project's delivery value. That's why it's important to complete a full assessment of what these risks could be and develop treatment plans based on risk ratings in the same way delivery risks are managed. One way you can do this is through a workshop with those responsible for running the product operationally and embedding the change with users or customers. Effective collaboration and support will of course also help inform continuous improvement cycles that the project team may support in future releases. So that's about it for the risk management in this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to our Jexo YouTube channel so you can stay up to date. See you next time, and until then, happy project planning.